Well, today we're doing page 2 of chapter 1 on early man for world civilizations. We start out with the Neanderthals or Neanderthals. They were found in the Neanderthal, which is a valley in Germany, and probably lived between 100,000 BC and 30,000 BC. This group used stone tools, they wore animal skins, and they buried their dead. So I will ask the question, what does burying of the dead signify? And the answer would be that it's an indication that people believed in some form of an afterlife. Otherwise, why does it matter whether you bury the dead or preserve them? Okay, the next group, Homo sapiens. The first to have anatomy similar to people today. And I maybe should have added Homo sapiens sapiens, but 150,000 to 200,000 years ago in Africa. They spread to other parts of the world, replacing earlier hominids, and it's kind of the out of Africa theory. So you notice that there's kind of a discrepancy. This seems like the more modern group, but the time period actually is before the Neanderthals. And as you look at the two types of people, the Neanderthal are a little shorter, stockier, receding forehead, heavy brow ridge. So in appearance, they appear to be the older group. And the Homo sapiens would have come later. But the one developed in Europe and the one developed in Africa. Okay, the Paleolithic Age is the Old Stone Age, 2.5 million BC to about 10,000 BC. This is the earliest period of human history, and of course it's marked by the use of simple stone tools, and that's where it gets the name for this period, is the Old Stone Age. Paleolithic people were nomads. So they were nomadic, moving from place to place. Some of their tools included the hand axe. So instead of a wooden handle or something where you would, hold on to it and hit down, you would just actually hold a piece of stone in your hand and then come down with it like that. Spears, bow and arrows, harpoons, fish hooks, and bone needles. Fish hooks, I'm sure, were probably also carved out of bone or, I don't know, whatever very slender thing that could be hard, maybe could be created and then dried, but pretty much they used most everything they could from these animals that they killed. So the main job of these people was to obtain food. Whether it be following a migrating herd of animals, whether it be searching along the way as you're traveling and looking for nuts and berries, fruits, roots, just whatever things that you could find to eat, that's what their job was doing. Later on, they would become more settled. They believed that there was some equality between men and women, even this early in history. There is evidence of that. Shelter was found in caves. Again, it's kind of a naturally occurring shelter. And many of these caves served as homes for many people for many years. There's one of the videos that I show talks about a cave that's had people in it for literally thousands of years, if not tens of thousands. But they excavate 10 to 12 feet down in this cave, in the center of the cave, and they have found the fire pit or the fire being built in the center of the cave, and then year after year after year and millennium and generation, and so they build a fire and the stuff gets spread out, and they build a fire and spread out, And eventually, the floor is built up, and it's 10 to 12 feet deep from some of these earliest fires in this cave. And it was interesting that they said that they were only going to excavate half the cave because maybe later archaeologists might have better techniques, which I thought that was pretty interesting. So in addition to caves, they may have used poles or possibly some of the large bones from some of the, like a woolly mammoth. They used some of that to build their structures. It says they used fire. Obviously, the first instance of them knowing or having knowledge of fire would be when lightning struck. So they would see it burning, go over and investigate, realize that it's hot to the touch, they could get burnt. They felt warmth from it, something they wanted to have control over it. They may have reached the point where maybe somebody in their group would be kind of the fire master, where they had something that they could keep a fire in and keep it going. They realized that it needed to be fed. And then later on, maybe they learned how to start it themselves. So some guys out there, chipping away at some stones, and there's dry grass along the area, and a spark goes in and starts a fire. Well, he doesn't automatically realize, oh, that started a fire. He has to have that happen a number of times before he realizes, well, every time I'm chipping, I start a fire. So what is it about chipping that causes that fire to start? So eventually they knew how to start it on their own and to create it. Okay, the Ice Age. So there were a period of 4 different ice ages. The most recent, about 100,000 BC to 8,000 BC. There were thick sheets of ice that covered large areas of the northern hemisphere. Sea levels went down and people were able to migrate on land bridges. So this area right here between North America and Asia, that area of seawater is about today 600 feet deep. But during the Ice Age, when you can see the areas of land that were covered by ice, so a lot of the water was caught up into those glaciers and the ice, and so the level of water dropped, and it exposed the land bridge right there. So people were able to come across from Asia. So again, it would have been this area across to North America. They speculate that it wasn't just one big group. It was over probably thousands of years that they migrated, and they didn't come all at one time, and that some of the earlier groups maybe went all the way down to South America, and then as temperatures changed and climate got better, that they started to stop off farther and farther north until possibly one of the last groups would be our modern-day Eskimos, or the Inuit, as they prefer to be called. And so that's why they live in Alaska and Canada, because if that was, the climate that they left, that's what they ended up finding that was comfortable for them. Okay? So art is basic and important to all human life. There's some important finds: Lascaux Cave in southern France, the Altamira Cave in Spain, and the Chevette Cave in southeastern France. The Altamira Cave in Spain was interesting because there was a family group out having a family outing or picnic of some kind, and there was a boy who was wandering off playing and investigating, and he wandered into this cave, and he must have had a torch or a flashlight, and then they heard him scream, "Tora, Tora, Tora," which meant bulls, bulls, bulls. And so he had actually found, I think it's maybe this one, I'm not sure how I organized these. Anyway, so one of these paintings was on the cave, and so he was actually the one that discovered that. But these indicate some of their history, some of their activities could be represented on these cave walls. Okay, and this is an interesting statement. Some older cave drawings are more advanced than other cave drawings that are more recent. And that's opposite of what scholars had assumed. So if you look at a cave drawing, and so maybe I've got two up here, this one looks better than this one, you might assume, oh, this one's newer, that would be more recent, but it wasn't always the case. And I think the explanation for that would be that people developed differently in different areas, like Europe and Africa and Asia. And so just depending on the set of circumstances that those people were faced with, they're different. We don't know their everyday activities and the thinking and what ideas were brought to them from other people. So lots of different explanations that wasn't necessarily the case. If something was more advanced looking, didn't always mean that it was a more recent or newer artwork. So that's the end of page 2, and thank you.